A big problem with Nigerian movies is that our protagonists aren't very likable. So tell me, how did this movie manage to make a character that didn't speak the most likable character we've seen all year?
Hi everyone, welcome to Iroko Critic.
Critics with receipts.
I'm Mrs. Critic.
And I'm Mr. Critic.
And today we've got a bit of a treat for you. Now, when this video comes out, it should be October 1st. So, happy Independence Day to all our fellow Nigerians. You guys are some of the most resilient, talented, and kind people out there.
Let this boy suffer for 600 years in his life.
And if you're a movie lover, we have the perfect movie to recommend to you to celebrate Nigeria.
And there are a couple of choices, but the best one is without a doubt The Lost Okoroshi. The Lost Okoroshi is about a security guard who transforms into a masquerade, channeling ancestral spirits as he roams the streets of Lagos.
Okay, there are two types of people who haven't watched the film. Those that heard the film and thought, wow, that's interesting, and those that heard masquerade and thought, God forbid. But I'm sure that we can convince you why you need to watch this.
To the first group who thought, what a fresh, interesting plot. You're right, you really can't tell where this story is going because it is a unique story, but it's also not too strange. Think, what if our masquerades were superheroes and Okoroshi was Iron Man and the Lost Okoroshi is his origin story? Does that make sense?
Okay, baby, you're getting quite excited. It's not quite that. Let them not think it's an action-packed movie.
Yeah, but there is ass whooping though.
Look, forget what Mr. Critic says. This is really a comedy, and honestly, one of the funniest movies we've seen. Unlike most movies, the comedy isn't reliant on any particular funny comedian doing their shtick.
So shall I teach him lesson?
Madam, we're talking about Bakedoshi.
The comedy is written in the absurdities of scenarios. It's found in the director and writers paying attention to detail that a lot of people would skip. Take the scene for example. This is a scene where Raymond, our security guard, has just turned into a masquerade, and his wife, who was scared about this before realizing it was her husband, decides to take him somewhere. But to get there, they have to use public transport, and then, well, you can imagine what happens. See for yourself.
There are so many moments like this sprinkled in this movie. Some of the jokes are less elaborate and come in the form of a signboard for a secret society.
The movie is also easily the best scored music in Nollywood. Yes, I said it. Easily. You know, sometimes we're glad when we just have a movie scored. I liked the score.
Yeah,
they had an actual score. I remember when we watched Living in Bondage and it had a scene that was scored well. This whole movie is like that scene, but I dare say even better because the sounds feel very appropriate, very Nigerian.
The artistry in this film is something else. From the locations to the costumes to the editing. The locations in this is so well done, and I don't mean flashy. We know some of you guys like to see shine things, but this movie isn't about that. It's about really making sure the characters we are seeing belong in the clothes, location, and the story being told. And this film is great at showing that.
And for the editing style.
A movie with editing style.
It feels very contemporary. We recognize some Spike Lee-esque shots in the film.
I'm trying to catch the sunset at Menemsha Beach. I hear it's amazing.
That's all the way up island.
We are the Igbo People Secret Society for Heritage Restoration and Reclamation.
And some jump cuts found in places that are used as part of the storytelling technique. Sometimes it's pencil drawings, sometimes it's just the use or positioning of colored flares to tell a story. This film knows there are more ways to tell a story than just having your characters exposited.
And it's not like the movie doesn't know how to dialogue. It's actually very good at it. The dialogue is sweet on the surface, but contains rich subtext. And the people who are supposed to be speaking Igbo speak Igbo. People who are meant to be speaking Big English speak Big English.
What you're experiencing in the hypnagogic state.
And people who are meant to be speaking Pidgin speak Pidgin.
You know what make better sense, I tell you.
Now you chill at Alu.
Look, Mr. C has to bore you with his interpretation of the film, so we can't keep going into depth about all the good things. But before I hand you over to him, let me list a few things the film does really well. It has a lot of interesting characters that aren't just one note. They're all performed really well, with standouts being Ifo Eneda as Doris, Ozi Agu, Sheon Ajayi as Raymond, and Kelechi Udegbe as Vice President. The film is also well-paced and short. The cinematography is fantastic, and it's a film you can pick up something new on a second watch. But one of my favorite things about this film is that it pays homage to old Nollywood. It's not raising shoulder on top of how good it is. Look, the movie is good. Just watch it if you haven't, please. It's very good. We can't be complaining about Nollywood not trying, and then Abba Makama comes and co-writes and directs this movie and we don't watch it. And Pico, it's on Netflix everywhere. Borrow password and watch it if need be. Anyway, that's that from this side.
Hey, what about the bad?
It's true, we've just been praising the movie. Any bad, Mr. C?
Yes.
Ugh, the cons are so nitpicky and unimportant, but I guess critics have to critique.
Okay, so this movie has a small budget, and even though that complements a lot of the look of the film, it probably contributed to some of the issues in the film, like the sound mixing. Sometimes it's very easy to tell when the audio source switches devices because of the background noise from the recording devices.
Come late one more time.
Some of the cuts don't work perfectly. I mean, in this scene, the Okoroshi disappears with the ripples in the puddle.
This one is personal, but I, Mr. C, was a little bothered by some of the coloring. Yes, I know it's me, I've come again. I'm tired of complaining about orange and teal, but unfortunately, every time someone does it, I will whine. Just expect it. Especially if it is present in the video of a camera phone. Like, so they're color grading, the camera phones are coming with color grading. Anyway, honestly, this movie is far from the worst at color grading. It even has scenes with other colors. Look, the color thing is just a personal thing for me, obviously. The polls have shown this, but it didn't bother me that much as we are inducting this movie into our Hall of Fame.
Congratulations! Alright, go and do your interpretation.
Thank you, you're not invited.
I don't want to come, Seth is boring.
I don't want you to want to come.
She are the one editing this video after you start tweeting at 2 AM that the video is too long.
Okay, welcome guys, it's just me and you now. This is the first analysis I will be doing, and I don't imagine this will happen too often, as most of our movies can be understood completely by 4-year-olds, which by the way is not always a bad thing, but it's nice to have some variety. Oh, and spoiler warnings, if you haven't seen the film, I'm about to go into details, so first give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, then go watch the movie and come back and join us as we delve into my interpretation of what this movie is trying to say. So I'm going to discuss 6 things I think this movie is trying to say or do. But if this film has a theme, it's in the Doctor's book, it's the title of the Doctor's book, The Revival of Traditional African Spiritual Archetypes. Number 1, this movie is trying to challenge views about attitudes held by a lot of people regarding our culture and traditions today. And to do this effectively, Mr. Makama takes us back by 1. Using the older aspect ratio, 2. Using the clothes vernacular and the settings of older Nollywood, even though this movie takes place in contemporary Lagos. 3. He does it with some of the actions of the characters, like when Raymond checks Chiwetelu's character is dead. Okay, so we're back to the old days. Now let's challenge the idea that the folklore about our traditional gods are completely evil. This can be seen in the scene, where Raymond's wife challenges him about his dreams with the masquerades.
Follow me go see my pastor this weekend.
For what?
You still get that bad dream, Okoya?
Which time I tell you say you dream a bad dream?
2. This is a small and obvious one, but Western culture has its pros and cons. We see it where he criticizes social media here.
I don't understand how person could see you for real life. No go greet you inside phone. No be madness be that.
And points out its usefulness later in the film.
There will be arrangement for Okoroshi to be on social media.
And the pros and cons extend to the good and evil. Which brings us to the third one, the lost narrative. Our tradition has gods that were good. These are gods like Okoroshi. They fought for the helpless. They brought fortune to the good. And they punished the evil. but somehow this narrative has been lost. Number 4, there is also evil in the West. And this film points out to 3 murders that you know if they happened in Nigeria would have taken it for those Nigerian evil gods have come again. But these happened in the West.
Look to the United States, for instance. Incidents like the Slender Man stabbings, the Son of Sam murders, Richard Ramirez, all these are indicative of altered and imbalanced psycho-spiritual states.
Number 5, it's always a man trying to perverse the way of the gods without constant want for the material. Okoroshi doesn't want material things.
Masquerade, you forgot your money.
He doesn't even eat. It has just come to do its work by bringing happiness and blessings to good people and punishing the bad people. When the men who kidnapped it were discussing where it should live, Okoroshi just disappears like it doesn't care about this. This is not interesting to him. This is not what he has come to do. And throughout the film, people keep on wanting to use the Okoroshi for their selfish needs.
I'd love him to be in the video, you know.
How much is it?
1 million. 2 million. This Buddha will scatter it. We will make money.
Number 6, Makama speaks to the Sceptics using the Doctor. Now if you think about it, what does a Doctor represent? He's a scientist, someone who is after the facts. And of course he is skeptical of the spiritual at his introduction and explains away these things using his rationally acquired knowledge and big English.
I don't even know if I want to call them hallucinations anymore. There is a deliberateness, a concreteness, a form even relative to the immaterial, to what you're experiencing in the hypnagogic state.
But his arc is that by the end, after his research, he comes to a more nuanced take, one I feel the director shares, and that is the spiritual and physical are constantly interacting, and it has been us in the physical that have interfered and caused a corruption in the spiritual.
Atrocity here and there. People go kidnap, then go rape, then go steal. And this is they make the spirit know the thing where it could do again.
Well, as elements of the spirit worlds materialize in the physical world, they become distorted by the chaos of urban Nigerian life.
Interesting. I think the death of the Okoroshi, which was done stunningly, isn't actually a literal death, but it symbolizes the evil traditional gods winning the narrative, causing an imbalance, if you will.
The imbalance.
However, the imbalance is just for the moment, as there is a longing to learn and go back to our roots.
The response to cultural displacement is replacement, and like you said, there's been conscious effort to bring us back to our intrinsic spirituality.
A longing to revive the traditional African spiritual archetypes. Pretty cool, right? Personally, I actually don't agree with everything, but I love the presentation of it. Mr. Makama may be my new favorite director. Sorry, AK Mason. Our culture is fun. We should read and inquire about it. Maybe on your next visit to the village, ask someone to tell you about some of your tribe's folklore. What better way to celebrate your country than learning more about it? And if you've listened to this part and you live in Nigeria, go and tweet Mr. Makama because he doesn't think his work is loved in Nigeria. And our Nigerian distributors agree because this film wasn't released in Nigerian cinemas because they thought it was too big a risk, which is a little sad for our art. But if we can spread the word, maybe things can change. I shall be tweeting Mr. Makama my thanks, and I hope you join me. And again, happy Independence Day.
Mr. C, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Anyway, that's it from us. Have you seen the Lost Okoroshi?
If not, please go and see it.
Please. Alright, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's where we put all of our updates. And we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.